So to illustrate this deductive reasoning again, let's take a look at the concept of dinosaurs. What makes an animal a dinosaur rather than an elephant or something else? There are basically 4 criteria that must be met for an animal to qualify as a dinosaur. So dinosaurs were reptiles, like modern day snakes and crocodiles and Gila monsters. They were all reptiles, but being a reptile is not enough to be a dinosaur. They were also reptiles that had their legs directly under their bodies, as we mentioned in looking at Dimetrodon. So modern day crocodiles, modern day lizards do not qualify as dinosaurs because although they're reptiles, they have their legs splayed out to the side. And the same thing applies to other ancient animals. So on the left, we have Dimetrodon that we talked about. On the right, here's a creature called a Stemanasuchus. Now, probably you've never heard of a Stemanasuchus before, but you can tell me something about a Stemanasuchus using deductive reasoning. Was a Stemanasuchus a dinosaur? Well, the answer is no, it was not. And how do you know that? Because the legs are splayed out to the side. A Stemanasuchus was a reptile that actually lived long before the dinosaurs in a period called the Permian period. Dinosaurs also lived on land. Everything that counts as a dinosaur lived on land. So the marine reptiles that swam around in the oceans, flying reptiles like the pterosaurs were not dinosaurs. They had enough anatomical differences because of their environment that we do not classify them as dinosaurs. And finally, the 4th requirement, dinosaurs are reptiles with their legs directly under their bodies that lived on land, and they lived during the Mesozoic era, 252 to 66 million years ago. So those are the 4 specific facts that go to make the concept of dinosaur. So let's do a quick little quiz, quick little activity based on this and on what we've done earlier relating to dinosaurs. So first of all, I'll show you a creature. You tell me whether it's a dinosaur or not and why not. This is not a dinosaur. Why not? Because it is a flying reptile, and all the dinosaurs, remember, lived on land. This is actually a pterosaur called Quetzalcoatlus, and this was the largest of the flying reptiles. They would be pretty big if you met them today. Dinosaur or not? This is not a dinosaur. This is our friend Dimetrodon, and you know that he's a dinosaur, or he's not a dinosaur because the legs are splayed out to the side. And in fact, Dimetrodon did not live in the Mesozoic era. He lived earlier in the Permian. How about Mosasaur? Not a dinosaur. Why not? Because he lived in the oceans. He did live in the Mesozoic era, and he was a reptile, but he didn't live on land, and he doesn't have his legs directly under his body because he has no legs. How about an alligator? Well, first of all, is this a dinosaur? Obviously not, because he's not a reptile. This is a reptile, but not a dinosaur. Legs are splayed out to the side, and he does not live in the Mesozoic era. Plesiosaur, not a dinosaur because he lived in the oceans. A little more complex deductive reasoning. I will show you some dinosaurs. Let's go back to that classification of dinosaurs and tell me everything you can about each of these dinosaurs. Saurischian or ornithischian? Is the pubis pointing forward? That would be a saurischian, or back for an ornithischian. Bipedal or quadrupedal? What did the front legs compare? How did they compare to the back legs? Did he have claws or toes? Was it a herbivore or carnivore? Were its teeth peg-like or flat? So Tyrannosaurus rex, if you look at the structure, you can see peg-like teeth. That tells you he's a saurischian, which means his pubic bone pointed forward. These massive structures are the pubic bones. It meant he was a meat eater because the teeth are sharp. Because he's a meat eater, he must have walked on two legs, two massive legs, front legs, and the claws at the end of the legs. How about in Montosaurus? Well, there's a number of places you can start. There's no pubic bone pointing forward. This is actually a femur, part of the leg, the upper leg bone here. This is actually the pubis pointing backwards. That tells you that it is an ornithischian. The fact that there are no teeth in the front of the jaw, and the front of the jaw is modified into a bill, tells you again that this is an ornithischian. Broad, flat teeth, telling you that it ate plants. 4 legs, but the front one's smaller than the rear ones. And toes rather than claws. How about Lesothosaurus? Again, you can see pubic bone and ischium pointing both backwards, which tells you ornithischian. You can't really tell from here, but there would be no teeth in front there. The teeth would be broad and flat, front limbs smaller than the back limbs. This also, just to mention this, that this Lesothosaurus actually shows the falseness of a common idea about dinosaurs. Not all dinosaurs were big. If you look at this creature, he was only about the size of a chicken. How about Malawisaurus? Again, you can't see the hips in this picture, but you know something about the hips, and you know something about the legs because there are the peg-like teeth. That tells you it was a saurischian. That tells you the pubic bone pointed forwards. They're sharp, so this was a meat eater, and therefore you know it walked on 2 legs and it had claws. Triceratops, fairly easy to see that it was quadrupedal, but the front legs are less massive, are shorter than the back legs. That's characteristic of an ornithischian. You can also see the beak. Teeth only in the back, broad, flat teeth, and there's no pubic bone pointing forwards. This big guy, again, obvious detail, long neck, small head, long tail, 4 massive legs, all approximately the same size. This is a saurischian, and because it was a quadrupedal saurischian, it must have been a plant eater, which means it has the thin peg-like teeth that are dull. This is his head, and you can definitely see the dull peg-like teeth in the jaw here. Here's only a tooth. But what can you tell about this tooth? The tooth is sharp. The tooth is serrated like a cutting knife. That tells you this must have been a carnivore. And the only type of carnivores in dinosaurs were the theropods. And the theropods were one suborder of the saurischians. So you now know that the pubic bone must have pointed forward. It walked on 2 legs, small front legs, claws, and so on. Pretty amazing to be able to tell all that from a tooth, a single tooth. Again, same idea here. This is a dinosaur tooth, but it's broad and it's flat, and that's characteristic of the idea of an ornithischian and all those other details that go with being an ornithischian dinosaur, being a herbivore, having teeth only in the back of the jaw, front of the jaw probably modified to a bill or a beak, walking on 4 legs with the front legs smaller, shorter than the back legs. That's the power of deductive reasoning.